Hello, gorgeous folks. Welcome back to Moon Life Astro. This is Darice. And today we're going to get more into getting started or morning routines. Oh, first of all, I wanted to clean up my mistake last week. I was in the middle of that Pisces stellium and I was a little confused and I thought we were in Pisces season, and we are not. We are in Aquarius season still. But of course, it's always a great time to look at your vision, to think about what you want, to dream bigger. Always a great time to do that. It's just especially good during Pisces season, which will be coming up in just a few weeks. But for right now, we are still in Aquarius season. And I'm going to get back into our message for today, getting started or morning routines for most people. And yeah, just wanted to say a few words about that. I know if you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. And if you're coming back and returning, thank you as well. And just give me a moment while I pull up my notes here. I want to make sure I stay on script. Otherwise, I will go all over the place. And actually, first of all, I just wanted to talk a bit broadly before I get too into the details of having a morning routine. I'm sure most of you have heard for years why it's important to have what I call a getting started routine, because part of it is that I feel like there's so much baggage around the word morning routine in particular. There's a lot of pressure and expectations. And I want this to always come from a place of ease and serenity, something that's about helping you be more in the flow with the rhythms of nature and your own internal rhythms. So I want you to consider all of this from that space, that it's a suggestion, it's a want to. None of these are shoulds or must or have tos. So much of our thinking around planning, scheduling, productivity comes from this very colonial mindset of having to get things done, having to conquer, always having to be in control. And that's just not necessarily true. And it has not been my experience. When I let go of that kind of thinking, everything got easier for me, including sticking with a morning routine. But if you also have days where that just doesn't happen, it's not a reason to beat yourself up as well. And I'm sure many of you are also caretakers, caregivers, parents. And sometimes I wonder if some of this attitude, frankly, is just plain old sexism or misogyny, since so much of the primary caretaking in our culture falls to women and femmes. And there is this attitude that if you can't control every minute of the day, that you don't have it together. And I just think that's sexist, honestly, because, if you're caretaking, if you're dealing with a sick parent or, a child, a toddler, there's no way you can control every minute of the day. Like, that's just insane. And I've always been offended by that suggestion or that underlying assumption of things, especially in the planning and productivity world. I think there's this underlying assumption that, if you were, quote, more like a straight cis man, who always had it together, the way they're conditioned to, or at least to always have the persona that they have every minute of the day mastered. And I think that's a lot of unnecessary pressure as well on men in particular. And I think it's part of at least a lot of the dysfunction that we're seeing in the masculine expression in our culture. But that is an entirely different video. So I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I did just want to bring that to your awareness, though, because I have to question that for myself, too. Like, a lot of the assumptions that I have around myself and how I move through the day and how I handle my time, how much of that is coming, frankly, from an attitude that favors the life of a traditionally upper class, white, straight man, who probably has a spouse and, paid help taking care of like all of these other details that they don't have to be bothered with. In particular, one of the things that I think they talk about in some feminist or womenist circles, the mental load that goes along with caretaking and taking care of a house. Um, not only doing the grocery shopping, but remembering when the grocery shopping has to happen, tracking when all of the appointments are for everyone in the household, tracking, all of the supplies for the house, all these things that don't necessarily get written down or that you don't get any acknowledgement for, but takes a lot of mental and emotional and physical energy. And if you're doing a lot of that, that might explain why you feel so tired or overwhelmed sometimes. And maybe if there are people in your household who can be helping out with some of that mental load, maybe it's time to ask them to step up and help out with some of those things. Just an idea. You never know. So all in all, I just wanted to set some context for this getting started routine and morning routines, and just to give you a bit more insight into my approach around planning and productivity, and why I'm so passionate about sharing this with people as well. Because for me, a lot of this is about breaking down a lot of our assumptions about who we are and how we move through the world. I feel like this is a critical time in human consciousness. And as we're seeing all of the systems around us fall apart as they are being prepared to be reinvigorated or recreated in a new way, it's important, I think, for us to give ourselves permission to do the same for ourselves internally as well. I really do feel like this is what a lot of the astrology for this year is asking us to do as we grow and mature on a spiritual and soul level. So, with that, I'm going to get right into it. Most people, you want to set aside 30 minutes if possible for a getting started routine. I know for some of you that may not be possible. You may only have 5 minutes, and that's okay, to start where you are. But if you could set aside 30 minutes to really get yourself set up to be in the right frame of mind, to start your day from a more positive approach, um, or even just to start with like some of the first thoughts you have when you wake up. I had a couple of teachers remind me of this, that, if you're starting your day thinking, oh my God, I'm so tired, I didn't get enough sleep, or you immediately go to the list of people that are irritating you or frustrating you, that's not necessarily the best way to start off your day. What if you could take a breath and think about, okay, I'm grateful that I'm here, I'm alive. I'm grateful that I have breath in this body. I'm grateful that I have a new opportunity to do it differently today. Usually, my first thought when I wake up in the morning is, I am so happy and grateful to be alive. I'm so happy and grateful that the creator, higher power, gave me a new opportunity. Or if you can begin to ask yourself, what do you want to be grateful for when you wake up in the day? And sometimes maybe one way to start that is the night before to write that down, put it on an index card or a post-it, something that you see when you first wake up, so that your first thoughts are something positive and abundant, prosperous. And I'm not talking about like money necessarily or resources. Although if you want to start with that, like, I'm grateful that I have a safe place to stay. I'm grateful that I have, food and safe shelter, that sort of thing. I think it's easier to begin a getting started routine if it starts with those positive thoughts, because then it makes it literally easier to get out of bed. Because when I suffered from um, low grade depression back in the day, anxiety, my negative thoughts would be the first thing that would run through my head as soon as I woke up. And then suddenly I would be spiraling. And it would take such a monumental effort to literally get out of bed. And I spent years like that, like just on the edge. Like, it was awful and horrible. And I'm so grateful that I'm no longer in that space, that I've done the mental and spiritual and emotional work to no longer be in that place. And for me, having a positive getting started routine helps me stay in that positive mental frame. It's one of the many tools that I use for my own mental health. And also, just as a solopreneur, it's nice to give yourself time to just breathe, to slow down, to be present, to be in the moment. We can have so many to do, so many things to always take care of, so many projects that we're managing and juggling, so many things we want to accomplish, so many goals that we're trying to make happen. And that's wonderful. It's wonderful to have all of these amazing opportunities and endeavors and opportunities to collaborate with people, all of these amazing projects. And especially if you are privileged enough to do work that you love or to be creating work that you love. It's very exciting. And it's good to remember that it's okay to relax and be in the flow. That if we slow down and don't rush through everything, that doesn't mean we're going to lose momentum. It doesn't mean that things are not going to get done. So often, I think unconsciously, I thought that if I slowed down, if I took a moment to just be in the moment, that I would let everything fall apart, that it would all go off the rails. And that has simply just not been my experience. And so I'm just encouraging you and inviting you to have space, breathe. And that could be one way that you're getting started routine. Just take a few deep breaths, just in and out. Maybe in to the count of 4, out for the count of 4. That could be one way that you start your morning routine. Also, morning routines or getting started routines, they're a powerful time for setting intentions. So you can set your intention for how you want to go through the day, the 2 or 3 big priorities that you're going to be focusing on for today. Or again, you can always write that out ahead of time the day before. It depends on, what works best for you. Again, some people like to do morning pages. If you're not familiar with morning pages, that's where you sit down and you write like um, subconsciously or just like without any filter for like 20 minutes. Some people just set a timer and they just write, just let it all out. And then several people, they usually don't even reread that work. They'll do it for months and they never reread it. It's just a good way to like sort of like just clear the mind and have a free palette and see what arises in the process of you writing those morning pages. See what ideas come to you about how you want to get through the day, how you want to move through the day. And again, all of these things are suggestions. And if you have the time and the space and the ability to do that, that's fine. But also, like I said, if you have children or you're caretaking for someone and you have to be around their schedule, what they need, at least try to give yourself at least 5 minutes to yourself. So even if that's only when you're in your shower, like that's your only alone time in the morning, then maybe use some aromatherapy for that shower. Maybe there's a way to have like a candle in the bathroom if that's safe. A friend turned me on to these aromatherapy. I'm not sure exactly what they call them, but basically it's a candle holder and then there's a little metal plate on top of on top of the burning candle, and you fill it with water and incense oil, just a few drops. And as the tea light candle burns and warms up the metal plate, the aromatherapy is released, and it's really beautiful, and it's not nearly as much smoke as say incense. But for some of you, maybe incense is the easiest way to go, and you just like wave a little incense in your bathroom, or there are also those lovely aromatherapy diffusers, with little sticks, and there's no fire involved. That might be an option for you as well. Some way to just give yourself a moment of luxury a way to say that you're taking care of yourself and you're giving yourself time to think. I know a lot of people, when they take their shower, that's their time to pray to the creator or their spirit guides, So if that's the sort of thing that works for you, then that's the time to do that for you. Another way to look at this also too is look at your moon sign. What sign your moon is in, that might give you some clues about how you want to start your morning. So say if your moon is in Aries, maybe the first thing you want to do when you get out of bed is jump out of bed and go for a run. And if that's your getting started routine, then that's your getting started routine. Maybe if you have the moon in Cancer, you might be more comfortable doing a meditation. That may be the way you want to start your getting started routine. But the main idea that I want to impress upon you is that encourage yourself to start the day with a purpose, and not necessarily a purpose that's driven around your business or your career or your work. Maybe find a way to remind yourself of what is your soul's purpose. And for me, what I have been working with is reminding myself that my soul's purpose is to be creative in how I approach things, how I move through the day, as well as encouraging my own creativity. So, this is why I'm giving myself permission to play around with how I express myself as an astrologer and some of the things I do on this YouTube channel. I am reminding myself that my soul's purpose is to be a creative and a creative light. So what are some other ways that may work for you? This may be something for you to consider for yourself. The next thing to do definitely is to hydrate, so either water or maybe herbal tea or maybe a little water with some lemon or lime juice in it. That's always an excellent way to get that day started for you. And again, mindful meditations. Oh, and like I talked about in my last video, perfect time to hug yourself. Hug yourself for 20 to 30 seconds. I want to develop this habit myself. To be perfectly honest, I'm only doing it a couple times a week, but maybe by the end of this month, I too will have developed the habit of hugging myself every single day. And I would love for all of this to make this our goal and intention for the month of February, especially with all of the stress, everything that's going on around us in the collective. We all absolutely deserve to hug ourselves each and every single day, several times throughout the day. And maybe that's what I'll remind myself to do when I get triggered, when I feel myself reacting to all of the things happening. Maybe that'll be my cue to remind myself to take 3 deep breaths and hug myself for 20 seconds. I'm going to practice that and I'm going to let you know how it goes. Another way to do this as well is when you're doing your intention setting. Like I said, you can always do it the night before. Sometimes a very helpful way to do that is like to map out what you want the next day to look at that night before as part of your winding down routine, or before you do your winding down routine. That's a good way to look at what you want to get done during the day. What are the absolute must-haves that have to get done that day? Those 2 or 3 priorities. Or like I talked about a while back, the one thing, like what's the one thing in your business you have to get done that day? What's the one thing you have to get done as a caretaker or as a parent? What's the one thing that you want to take care of as, a partner, if you're in a romantic relationship or you have a spouse, that sort of thing. I also want to remind us that since we are in Aquarius season, part of Aquarius is looking at the larger systems, the higher level view of things. So maybe one thing to look at is what's going to have the biggest impact on you and your energy if you do it consistently in your getting started routine. For me right now, it's drinking water. I am not drinking nearly enough water. So if I start my day off with drinking at least like 8 to 12 ounces of water, it sets me up to keep drinking water throughout the day, keep having my water infused with herbal tea. Sometimes I add a tea bag to my water. It makes it a bit more fancy. One of the things I also learned when I used to live in California, I went to a couple of restaurants and they would put chia seeds in their water with either fresh or frozen fruit. And that's a great way to add some fiber to your water and your nutrition routine. And it makes the water feel fancier, especially with the frozen fruit and the water. So I do that sometimes throughout the day. But that's the thing for me, because if I'm drinking water, then I also notice I end up drinking less tea. I've cut back on coffee. I'm not having coffee as much. And then as a result of that, I end up eating healthier throughout the day as well. So for me, that's the part of my getting started routine that has the biggest impact. And it sets me up to have more energy. I feel healthier and I feel more relaxed. I notice that when I'm having more water, I am more relaxed because I'm not drinking as much coffee. Simple, that kind of thing. But the main thing is just to work yourself towards consistency. And again, if you can only commit to one of all of these things that I've suggested, and that's what you want to start with and just play with for the rest of the month, then, start there. Let's just keep it easy. I'm all about ease because the world is so stressful and we have so much pressure on us, and there's always going to be more pressure. So let's just relieve some of that stress and pressure because I really do feel the key to developing resiliency is ease and joy. And I know it's counterproductive, it is counterintuitive. And one of the reasons why it's counterintuitive is that that is the Western culture that we have all inherited. This attitude of having to always be on the go, always over exhausting ourselves. I'm going to say this again and again. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We are not an inexhaustible resource. We are not an inexhaustible resource. We need to recover and recuperate. We need rest and recovery. And it's okay to move slower, to be in the moment. Because the more you do that, the easier it is to really decide and focus on what are the priorities, what absolutely needs to get done, what is worthy of your time and attention. When you take the time to step off of that treadmill, it's easier to be in alignment with what is truly in flow for you and your soul. So give yourself permission. You deserve that. You deserve to enjoy your life. Ultimately, what all of this is about is me helping you to enjoy yourself and your life more because you have a lot to give to the world. And I want you to be in the best space to do that. I want to support you in having the support around being your best self and living your best life. That's what this is about for me. And with that, I think I'm going to end it. I think that's all I have for today. Again, please comment below, share some of your ideas for your own getting started routine. If anything resonated for you, please share that. If you have questions, if you have comments about what I've shared, please put that down below. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're receiving value from it. It does help me get the message out to other people. And yes, and I love hearing from folks. Thank you for the people who have commented in the past. And if you made it this far, again, thank you for listening. I do appreciate it. On Wednesday, I will be releasing my video for the upcoming astrology for the week for February 12th through the 19th. So please do look for that. And again, wishing you love, peace, and joy. Easefully yours, Darice.